breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm up from hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts, a podcast powered by DraftKings, and vote yes on Prop 27. Prop 27 is working to get Californians online and able to bet online, much like over half the country is able to. I'm out here in lovely Las Vegas. You're able to bet online here. You're able to in cities like Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, but you can't in the great state of California. They're stuck with the shady bookies, so vote yes on Prop 27. We're going to turn that around, and we're looking to turn around some great coverage for the World Series. As joining me here in segment number 1 is going to be Andrew Caley. I'm going to give you guys a brief recap of what we saw in Game 4 of the World Series, and then we're going to be joined by Andrew Caley, who does amazing work over there at Covers, taking a look at the great game of baseball. List goes on and on. I'll get his thoughts on Game 5 of the World Series. Can we trust in Justin Verlander or not? How big was the rainout on Monday for the Philadelphia Phillies? And just the outlook of the series. And then in segment number 2, going to give you guys picks and analysis for Game 5 of the World Series and a little something I like to call touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, got one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at unit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way, that is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter questions today, but we did have a fun day of baseball for Game 4 of the World Series. So let's take a look at that. Just a little bit of a heads up, doing this as the game is going along because of Greg Peterson experience. That is from midnight to 3 Eastern time. So currently doing this in the 6th inning, but I think we've got a good feeling as how this one turned out.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
A 5 spot for the Houston Astros really put this one out of reach. You got to figure that the Phillies, they're not going to be able to come back, and if the Astros blow another 5-0 lead in this series, boy, oh boy, that's not going to be terrific. And what was not terrific, Aaron Nola in the 5th inning. He leaves after 4. He gave up 3 runs on 7 hits, and then Jose Alvarado was trying to hold down the fort. He was not able to. There were multiple hit-by pitches in that inning, so far from terrific. And for Christian Javier, as I'm doing this, 5 no-hit innings, 9 strikeouts, so that preserves the Astros bullpen. Meanwhile, the Phillies already had to go to Alvarado for 22 pitches. Andrew Bellotti is currently pitching as I am doing this, and the Phillies have gotten absolutely nothing generated. Meanwhile, for the Houston Astros, they've gotten multiple hits out of Yoli Gurriel, who is looking very solid here in the postseason. So there is that, and like I said, total's a little bit up in the air, but looks like the Astros are going to be able to knot this thing up by a count of 2-2, and that is our lead into our guest in Andrew Caley, who does amazing work over there at Covers, taking a look at a wide variety of things. All season long, he's been doing an amazing job taking a look at baseball, but on top of that, he does a nice job taking a look at the great game of football. I know he's diving into a little bit in terms of things like basketball. He does a great job with golf as well. So he's a man that's got you covered with a little bit of everything. And to be able to follow Andrew on Twitter, that is at Covers_Caley. Last name is spelled Caley. And Andrew, always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pretty wild World Series so far. So excited to talk about it.
It certainly has been. As we do this, it is currently 2-1 in favor of the Philadelphia Phillies. Game 4 is to be determined. You're going to know the results when you hear this. But that said, how surprised have you been by this World Series and just everything that's gone in general? Because I do feel like for me, the biggest thing that has happened thus far is that Game 3 rainout that we saw pushed back to Tuesday, because I really felt like that gave the Philadelphia Phillies a massive advantage in this series.
Huge edge. Well, it allows them to give an extra day of rest to their highest leverage pitchers. They are clearly not as deep in the rotation and the bullpen as the Astros are. So that extra day of rest is huge. Aaron Nola gets to pitch Game 4 as opposed to Game 5, and now being up 2-1 heading into Game 4. That's a big deal for the Phillies. The other thing I've noticed here is that we've had 2 rough starts so far from Astros starters, which we're not really accustomed to. Justin Verlander, that's his second kind of rough postseason start of this postseason, and that's kind of carried over the theme of him not pitching so well in the World Series. And then obviously on Tuesday night, we saw Lance McCullers, as he put it, get whooped, giving up 5 home runs there. I don't think he gave up 5 in the entire regular season in the 8 starts he pitched when he returned. So that was kind of something else there. And I also thought it was interesting to note how long Dusty Baker stuck with both of those guys in those games. He's got such talent and depth in that bullpen. I was a little surprised to not see him yank those guys a little more quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how he manages those starters moving forward.
It will be very fascinating to see how he manages that, as it is going to be in Game 5, Justin Verlander, as Andrew Caley is joining me on the podcast. And when it comes to Justin Verlander, it's been so interesting to take a look at him because he was so dominant during the regular season, a sub-2 ERA, but here in the playoffs, it has not been terrific. We all go back to that Game 1 of the World Series, but even in that start against the Mariners, he got lit up in that game, and though the stat line looked good against the New York Yankees, he gives up 1 run in 6 innings. You may recall he had been on second and third with like 0 or 1 outs. He had to wiggle his way out of that one and was quite fortunate to do so, and I just don't feel like you could have a ton of faith in Justin Verlander now. That said, he's going to be going up against Noah Syndergaard, which if it were Zach Wheeler, I think that would be a completely different story. But I do think that Game 5 sets up to be very fascinating because at the very worst, the Phillies are going to be tied up 2-2. And for Justin Verlander, this hasn't looked like himself here in the postseason.
I don't know if it's just he's not a young man anymore in terms of innings pitched. It's a long season for him. Maybe the length of the season's getting to him at this point. And obviously there's some magic around this Phillies team right now. The way that stadium rocks every time a home run is hit is pretty special. It'll be interesting to see how Verlander responds to that environment in Philadelphia. But you said it. It's hard to trust him right now after seeing the way he pitched in the ALDS. And now, again, in this matchup, he's giving up an almost 900 OPS in the postseason so far. But going against Noah Syndergaard, I think that a pretty good spot for the Astros in this one. I'd expect some sort of Syndergaard, Kyle Gibson piggyback in this situation, depending on how Wednesday night's Game 4 goes. You could use Gibson in Game 4 as well, but I could see some piggyback situation in Game 5 as well. And I honestly think that would lean towards the Astros, and I think you might be getting a little bit of value there. Like, as rough as Verlander has been, getting him as an underdog in this situation is a little tempting. But I think we've kind of hinted at this here. I think the play might be at 7.5 that we're going to be looking at the over here. Syndergaard has struggled when runners get on base, stealing bases. The Astros will be a menace if they get guys on base against him. And like we've said multiple times here, Verlander has struggled this year, and this Phillies lineup is as hot as they come.
Yep, I agree with you. If we get the Astros as an underdog, no question I'd be diving in on Justin Verlander, just because hard to have a lot of faith in Noah Syndergaard because you got to figure that it's going to be all hands on deck. You're probably going to be seeing a little bit of Nick Nelson, who pitched in Game 3 of the World Series. Pretty much anyone that can deliver any sort of length whatsoever is going to be coming out for the Philadelphia Phillies. As joining me on the podcast, we do have Andrew Caley. And when it comes to what we're going to be perhaps seeing in Game 5 of the World Series, what I think we're probably going to be seeing is quite a few runs as well, because we mentioned it with Justin Verlander's struggles. And for Philadelphia, going into Game 4 of the World Series, this team has been as hot as lava at home. 17 home runs in their first 6 games, scoring 4+ runs in every one of them. And if you've got Noah Syndergaard on the mound, I think that the Astros should be able to get to him and vice versa. Justin Verlander has been very hittable, so if we see another total, much like we saw in Game 4, between 7 and 7.5, I'd be willing to take it over in that spot.
I would as well. If we're looking at 7.5, I really like the over in that spot as well. I'm not a big believer in Thor. He just doesn't strike out a lot of guys anymore as well. And this Astros lineup, despite getting shut out in Game 3, very patient, don't strike out a ton. If he stays in the zone or near the zone against them, they're going to be able to take advantage of that situation. And prior to getting shut out in that game, they had scored 5 or more runs in 4 consecutive games. This is a very deep Astros lineup. They handle right-handers fairly well. I'm in total agreement with you there on the over. I really like it in this situation.
And overall for the series, where are you looking at in terms of it? Because with the Houston Astros, I do feel like if they lose Game 4, even with having Justin Verlander in Game 5 and Framber Valdez most likely in Game 6, I really do think that they would be up against it. I do think that Game 4 absolutely massive, and the way that I was looking at things prior to the series was Astros in 6. I'm right now leaning a little bit more towards Astros in 7, though I think that there's a good chance that the Phillies at this point pull it out. If I had to pick anything, I would be going Astros in 7, not knowing the result of Game 4. Where do you stand on this? Because just the more that I see this Phillies team, especially at home, the more I just continue to warm up on them.
Exactly. Like I said, there's some magic around this team. I think you're kind of right. I don't see much value. Prior to Game 4, I thought there was some value in the Astros to win the series at about plus 120, but since we don't know the result of this one, I don't think there's much value in the series price at all. The Phillies will either be even bigger than the minus 140 they were, or the Astros will lose some of the value, and you'd probably prefer to just bet the Astros on a game-to-game basis. If anything, I'd look at the Astros in 7 for the most value. But like you said, if they do go down 3-1 in this series, this Phillies team has shown a lot of heart, and this kind of feels like a Bryce Harper signature moment, and it might just be one of those special things. But if there is one thing that you can look at, maybe I'd take a look at Framber Valdez to win World Series MVP. If the Astros are able to take it to 7 games, I just think he can put on together another strong performance. He has just kind of the stuff to kind of negate the pop in the Phillies lineup if he pitches well in Game 6, pitches deep into it, and the Astros somehow win. Maybe he gets back and throws an inning in Game 7 or something like that too, just to put a little feather in his cap sort of thing. At 12-1, I think that's the best value out there if you think the Astros can turn it around. Otherwise, you're looking at, if the Phillies can pull this out, Bryce Harper pretty much has that locked up, and that's what odds makers think right now is, he's the plus 150 favorite to win MVP.
Yep, I agree with you. I thought that the best value going into Game 4 was whether you like the Phillies or you like the Astros. Just bet it game to game right now. The series price, to me, just not yielding lots of fruits, but a man that yields lots of great information and lots of great value. That'd be you, Andrew. You do amazing work over there at Covers, and like I said, I know that you do a lot in terms of baseball, but on top of that, as we know, the seasons are shifting. I know you do a great job with golf. I know you do a great job on the football front as well. So let the good people at home know they're able to follow you on social media and everything that you've got going on in general.
You can follow me on Twitter at Covers_Caley. I'm posting college football picks all the time, and as well as a lot of NBA players props, specifically a lot of focus on the Toronto Raptors. I am a bit of a fan of theirs, but I still try to be a little unbiased in my finding the best value and picking some player props on them as well. Done pretty well coming out of the gate. So lots of picks there for free on Twitter if you follow me there.
And Andrew always gives out when it's Toronto Blue Jays season his bat flip and pick of the day. We are going to be seeing that once we get Blue Jays season back. So have no fear there. And Andrew is an absolutely terrific follow and a man that does a great job following all the Toronto sports teams if you're a fan of that market. And Andrew has delivered every single time he's been on the podcast this season. So big thanks to him for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of podcast. I give you picks and analysis for Game 5 of the World Series and a little something like call touch 'em all.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units return, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to have on our good friend Andrew Caley of Covers, because Andrew does amazing work taking a look at the great game of baseball, does incredible work in terms of football and basketball as well, and for those looking for a little bit of golf in their lives, he does a great job of filling that void as well. So big thanks to Andrew for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for Game 5 of the World Series and a little something like call touch 'em all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at Junior_D1. Obviously, it's very easy to go in Las Vegas rotation order because there's one game, and with the nature of these World Series games, I don't have any numbers available to me because they're probably not going to be up until like 8:30, 9 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, which by then I'll be doing the Greg Peterson experience. So if you're looking for a little bit of bonus coverage and a little bit of bonus analysis, VSiN for that, you're going to be catching that from 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight Pacific, if you're looking on the East Coast, midnight to 3. So got you guys covered there once we do get the openers. But 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Phillies and the Astros, as it is going to be Justin Verlander who's going to be going for the Astros, and Noah Syndergaard is going to be getting the start for the Phillies, and I did make the Astros a sizable minus 166 favorite. I'd be willing to lay a very, very small number on the run line with a total of 7.7, 7.5 or less, looking at an over and 8 or higher. I am looking at an under for Justin Verlander. No doubt about it, it's been a rough postseason for him, as he has allowed here in the postseason 12 runs over the course of 15 innings. That said, I do think is going to be able to do a little bit of a better job in this spot. If you looked at him first time through the order against the Phillies, he was able to do a nice job of shutting them down. A Phillies team that they have scored at least 4 runs in all but one of their 7 postseason games thus far this season. But for Verlander, sub-2 ERA during the regular season, and for Verlander, he's actually been a little bit better on the road than he has been at home thus far this season, as his home ERA is a little bit north of 2, .86 on the road, has been able to do a nice job of containing the deep ball, as he's been giving up right around 0.6 to 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. And then you do look at Noah Syndergaard, and he's been able to do a solid job of keeping the ball in the yard as well, a little bit under a home run per 9 innings. But the big trepidation that you do have with Thor is that he's got an ERA when he's away from the state of California. He began his season with the Angels north of a 4.5, so that creeps into your mind with the Phillies. They, without a question, have been able to hit better at home rather than on the road going into Game 4 of the World Series. They had cranked out 17 home runs in 6 games at home, with Rhys Hoskins really headlining that. He has gotten 4 home runs over the course of his last 4 games. JT Realmuto has been legitimately the hottest hitting catcher on the face of planet Earth since the beginning of the month of July. Bryce Harper, he has been just that guy here in the postseason. 6 home runs, hitting above a 350, but on the fold, does need to pick it up. Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, Gene Segura, Brandon Marsh, all these guys throughout the postseason have been hitting at 225 or lower. And for Houston, you've gotten an absolute nothing burger out of Eled Micias. This guy has been terrible, but past that, the rest of the guys towards the bottom of the fold, like Yoli Gurriel, Chas McCormick, they have been amazing, especially Yoli Gurriel. I mean, he had a little bit of a rough regular season, hitting about a 240, a single-digit amount of homers. Here in the postseason, it has been a complete and utter transformation. He entered into yesterday hitting a 333, and that went up with what he was able to do yesterday. Jose Altuve hasn't even gotten going for this team. He's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200 here in the postseason. You've had Jeremy Pena crank out a trio of home runs. He's hitting nearly a 300 in the postseason. Alex Bregman providing a 350 on base. He has been solid, and the bullpen of the Astros just has the Phillies completely outgunned, and they are a little bit more rested because you're only able to get 4 innings out of Aaron Supernola. So well, the Astros are going to have guys like Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero, a company available. The Phillies had to use up Jose Alvarado yesterday, and Alvarado got it around a little bit. Now, they haven't had to utilize Sir Anthony Dominguez too much in this series, but you got to figure that with Syndergaard going for a combined about 5 1/3 innings across 3 appearances here in the postseason, that he's probably not going to be able to provide much more than the 3 or so innings that he did in his lone start in the postseason a bit earlier against the Atlanta Braves. So that puts his team a little bit behind the 8 ball. Probably going to be looking to like Nick Nelson to be able to fill a few innings, as he threw 30 pitches a few days ago as well. So that puts the Phillies in a little bit of a less than ideal spot, and I do think that that gives a big advantage to the Astros. A little bit of trepidation here with Justin Verlander, but I do think that he's going to be able to perform better than he has thus far in the postseason. Even that just 1-run performance they had against the Yankees, he had quite a bit of issues in that one as well, but still has good swing and miss stuff. I think that he's going to be up for this game. So set the Astros minus 166 and 7.5 or less, looking at the over 8 or higher to the under. I'll have my DK Nation pick once we get openers, so that'll be posted up in the morning on my Twitter feed at GNR41, and that Twitter handle, that's where you can ask a question, comment, segment idea, or anything else that you have for this podcast. And if you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. A big thanks once again to our good friend Andrew Caley of Covers for joining me in the last segment. I'll be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.